Well, we are living in the most prosperous times in human history. The same could have been said by those who lived in the Roman Empire. Despite its greatness, that empire collapsed, and as Os Guinness explains, we may be on the same path.
For thousands of years, empires have come and gone. The world powers of yesterday are little more than museum artifacts of today. In the book, Our Civilizational Moment, social critic Os Guinness explores why nations fall and whether or not we in the West can avoid the same decline.
Well, Os Guinness is with us now, and he's got a wonderful new book out, Our Civilizational Moment, The Waning of the West and the War of the Worlds. And let's just get right into it. You know, in the book, you talk about the waning of the West. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you look at civilizations, they rise through some inspiration. But in every one of them, and as you say, all the previous ones are either in ruins, museums, or history books. In other words, there's a moment when they lose touch with what made them great. And when that happens, there are only three broad options. You either have an alternative, a replacement, or you renew the original inspiration, or decline. Well, now, obviously, the inspiration of the West is the Christian faith.
Right, this is
rooted in Judaism.
Yeah, Judeo-Christian.
The alternative is the Enlightenment secularism. That's failed.
Well, you blame our waning on the Enlightenment, that there was a struggle, and you know, I'm taking back to the famous phrase, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. You know, what was going on in Paris and what was going on in London. And that struggle, are we going to stay Christendom? Are we going to go into some kind of, quote, enlightenment, where, you know, the state replaces everything? And you know, you can see in the roots of that Marxist ideology that, you know, the state is everything. But haven't we won that particular battle? Are we still stuck in some kind of enlightenment trap?
I don't think so. I mean, you had the French Revolution. That made a huge difference. Then the Enlightenment and its ideas have failed, and then the carnage of World War I. And the West threw up three great totalitarian powers: communism, fascism, and Nazism. Now, we defeated them, World War II and the Cold War, but we've thrown up now cultural Marxism. So the gaslighting of the West, we're imperialistic, homophobic, racist, xenophobic, you name it. Half of the West is actually deeply opposed to the West.
What's our way back? You know, if we can achieve renewal, what's the way?
Well, you and I believe in renewal. And the great thing about the Jewish and Christian faiths, in other words, if you're an atheist, you only have decline and fall, and they're ironclad together. But in the scriptures, for Jews and for those of us who are followers of Jesus, decline and fall is replaced by exile and return. So there is exile. Do wrong, follow the wrong way of life, and you pay for it. But, as you know, Moses and many others, if you return to the Lord, he will return to you and restore your fortunes. In other words, we've got to make that notion of revival and renewal practical today among the whole church in the West. And my passion is that we join hands with our brothers and sisters in the global church, and we stand over against the authoritarian powers, China, Russia, Iran, for a human-friendly future.
I've heard it said that whether we like it or not, Islam views us as one, that we're idolaters to be conquered. We don't view ourselves that way. We want to hold on to our divisions, I guess, within Christianity. But they view us as one and view us as idolaters, infidels, that need to be conquered. Are we ever going to wake up to that reality, that we're in a war of cultures?
And if you think, we've thrown up, as I said, communism and so on, but that also globally threw up Islamism. and Said Qutb and the others all came up in reaction to that. And we've got to realize how deadly they are. Radical Islamism is the black wave that's every bit as dangerous as radical Marxism and the radical sexual revolution. In my own country, Britain, you can see the country's being Islamified, and the craziness of open immigration there has made us incredibly vulnerable. Now, we beat them at the Battle of Poitiers and Tours, and then the Battle of Lepanto, and then the Siege of Vienna, but now they're infiltrating the West again.
I think most people in America have never heard Lepanto, don't understand Charles the Hammer at the Battle of Tours, don't understand how defining those were, and how the whole phrase defender of the faith became a symbol for every ruler in Europe, that the whole concept of Christendom was in opposition to Islamic invasion. Why is that? We seem to have bought into some kind of crusade mentality that, you know, the Muslims were victims, and forget all about the invasions.
Well, sadly, we have a very poor view of history. And we've got to encourage Americans at large, but also Christian Americans in particular. We need history. So as Churchill says, the further back you can see, the further ahead you can look. And we need to have a great sense of history to do what the Bible calls remember, remember, remember the road you've come from. Because forgetfulness, Solzhenitsyn says this, Moses says it, the key reason why civilizations fall, forgetfulness.
Well, do you see glimmers of hope? I'm seeing sort of outbreaks, particularly on college campuses in America, something I didn't think would happen. But I'm seeing signs of young people turning back to faith and turning back to God. I'm not sure they're turning back to history and learning some of the lessons, but they're definitely turning back to God. Is that just in America? Are you seeing it in Europe?
No, that's very encouraging throughout the West. In other words, there's a crisis of meaning. People call it a mental health crisis. That's wrong. It's a crisis of meaning, which means faith, because faith gives you meaning, belonging, and purpose. Everybody needs that. But it's not only the younger generation. I love the fact that it's the intellectuals, too. If you think of great historians like Neil Ferguson or Tom Holland, they've seen that the Christian faith is indispensable to Western culture. And that's been the spur to thinking why, in fact, it made the difference, and is it true? Because the faith isn't just useful. It's only effective in culture when it's understood to be true.
Well, I am encouraged by the outpouring of faith I'm hearing in our culture. Even an astronaut trapped on a space station is saying, well, the only reason I'm surviving is my faith in Jesus. I've got to ask this question, though. In a world where we're seeing the rise of AI, reasoning algorithms, are we going to, instead of renew our faith in God, are we going to replace him with some kind of AI algorithm?
I think there'll be the attempt to do that. But you can see that, on the one hand, technology comes between us. You take, say, cell phones in kids. But at the ultimate, it replaces us. But at a very elementary level, AI is destroying the whole notion of truth and falseness. And that's very dangerous. The ultimate danger of AI, it could replace us altogether, what C.S. Lewis calls the abolition of man. But thank God he's sovereign. And the Lord always looks after his creation, and above all, creatures made in his image. So I have confidence that the Lord is in charge of everything. And so we need have no fear and have faith in the Lord and tackle all the issues that come up with confidence.
Amen. We could talk for a long time, but I'm being told I've got to wrap. I encourage you to get this book, Our Civilizational Moment. If you're interested in ideas that have shaped us, how did we get to the current place we are? And what are the important ideas to hold on to as Christians, and how we can stand for our faith in a culture that sometimes seems to be completely against us? Well, you can learn more. It's his new book, Our Civilizational Moment. It's available nationwide. Oz, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you.